Testing. All I really want to do is test things. I could test things and then stress things. Or I could do a little less things. Okay, testing, mic check, 1, 2. Without further ado, don't forget to drink your water. We are doing a Mesmer skate unboxing, first impressions, and I don't know, I'm just gonna give you me. I can't give you anything else. These are the TS2, Team Skate 2. So, a gentleman by the name of William O'Neill, aka Billy Fish O'Neill, not to be mistaken for Billy Fish Scale O'Neill, right? But he was kind enough, but he was actually lazy and lackadaisical in getting these to me. Allegedly, I won these skates through a raffle from last year's Bashi Pope Skate Off and I don't know if it's the NYC Street Invitational. Whatever the case is, I'm grateful that they finally came, but I can't be certain that I'm grateful just to have them. I'm grateful to be here and alive speaking to you folks via the interwebs, the www. But yeah, my address and things are on here. I don't really give an F. What I will say first and foremost, right, since this is a first impressions unboxing, I love that it was wrapped neatly. It weighs 11 pounds, 12.2 ounces in the box, right? So I have a digital scale directly in front of me here that I'm going to place the box on because I weighed it early and I just want to double check and give you guys for the camera, right? So now this is a 10.5, 11 skate, all right? So let's see what I get here on the scale. So I'm getting 11.8 pounds and let's do that again because I actually want you to see this. So let's do this one more time. All right, so we got 11.8. It blinks, but then it disappears. Does it disappear already? I don't think it did. Shit. I'll do that one more, and I might cut and edit this. And the way for me to check this stuff is to use a mirror. All right, calculator, you are in the way. So I'm giving you this as 11. So 10.5, 11 skate comes in at 11.8. According to the box, it's 11 pounds, 12.2 ounces. When you do the math and conversion, 11.8 pounds is approximately the same. My Jeff Howard Razors Shift skates come in, I think, at almost, what did I write down? They measured exactly, what did they measure? They measured 8.8 pounds? Approximately 8.8 pounds, right? Keeping in mind that those are 60 millimeter wheels flat that have been worn down to 57, and there has been a lot of plastic worn down from both the frames and the wheels, right? I'll do this one more time just to confirm. Let it blink, and that is what you got. Right, so if you saw that, great. If you didn't, we'll weigh it again once it's out of the box. So yeah, I was definitely disappointed that Billy did not get me these skates. You know, I personally had to reach out, and I think if you're a company and you're hosting a skate contest or an event, there should be a higher level of professionalism. Unfortunately, with Mesmer skates, that was not the situation, and I can't blame these guys. I think too often these guys have their head in the clouds, and maybe their nose is a little dirty, if you will, right? So it's difficult to stay focused when you're a drug addict and you're running a skate company. And I'm not speaking to, allegedly, right? Allegedly drug addict and all these other things alleged. But I'm only saying that because it takes one to know one. I myself am a recovering addict of love, sugar, sodium, cocaine, alcohol. So anyways, Mesmer skate. Let's just break this bad boy open. Let's put the scale on the ground. And I need a blade. And the reason I'm doing this type of review is because too many of these companies in this capitalist society take advantage of the consumer. And I personally, for one, am fed up. I'm fed up of buying a product, especially USD products, and the cuff bolts come out. I'm tired of, buying a Sunshine distribution product, whether it's Razor, ground controls, you name it, and let's say the wheels aren't what they say they are, or even worse, they say it comes with ABEC 9 bearings, and then you get bearings that have 0 rating on them, and that actually feel like they're just the cheapest stock bearings that they could have gotten manufactured in China, right? So we can say COVID this, COVID that, but when you're charging $300-$400 for a skate, it sucks, right? So before I even go further and unbox this, I am on heavydistribution.com. That's HEAVYDISTRIBUTION.com. So heavydistribution.com will take you to the TS2. They retail for exactly $289 US dollars, right? I think that's a great price point for this particular skate. And to give you some backstory from my perspective, the USD, because these are essentially, what's the word I'm looking for? Not upcycle, but they are a modified, upgraded rebrand of the USD Classic Throne Skate, which I tried many years ago. You're talking 15, 20 years ago. I tried them on once or twice. And every time I've tried on a skate, someone else was riding, I never tried them on brand new. Every single time I tried them on, they were always too narrow, right? They were never necessarily too long, but just the narrow width of the boot was too much for my 10.5 feet to bear. Or back then, my feet would have been 9.5, because when I started aggressive inline roller skating 20 years ago at age 18, I wore 9.5, and over the years, I guess my feet grew to a 10.5, and now I'm getting closer to an 11. So I'll just read you the details here. This skate comes in a 5 to 5.5. It comes in a 6 to 7. It comes in a 7.5 to 8. It comes in a size 9 to 10. It comes in a 10.5 to 11 and a 12 to 12.5. So that's, did I do all? That's 6 sizes, right? 4, 5, 6, right? So it comes in 6 sizes, and I'll just read you the description. The Mesmer TS2, our second team skate, our gray boot Mesmer TS2, is a recreation of the original PU. I forget if that's poly something. It's a plastic they're referring to, polyurethane. It's a polyurethane compound to provide an optimal skating experience while making the best possible price for the consumer. Let's see what else we have here. Updates. Let me see if I can slide this way here. So updates is that it's a redesigned shell which provides more space for the front foot. I really hope that's true, because that is what, in my professional experience and opinion with not just shoes and footwear, I'm thinking of specifically the Nike ACG duck boot to be one of the worst one of the worst fitting products, because it has such a low toe cap area. So if they did in fact increase the space for the front of the foot, then hopefully this actually fits and is comfortable. I will digress quickly. In 2022, so 2 years ago, while I was operating New Wave Skate Shop, our nonprofit entity in Substance Skate Park, which I was grateful for that opportunity, someone brought a pair of the John Bellino, the first release Mesmers in all black. They brought them to the shop to try to resell them. And I think I gave them a consignment deal, we were working it out, but I ultimately wanted to keep the skates, wear them and test them. And I think those might've been a 910, but they were very tight. But however, the one takeaway that I had when I looked at those skates, felt them and touched them, is that they felt, looked, and the aesthetic overall of these products that I'm seeing today as opposed to yesteryear and 10, 20 years ago, is that these products in general, to me, have a much better quality control process, where the screws, the hardware, the lace systems, the overall aesthetic, the sleekness of the product, right? When you think of an Android or an iPhone, I feel like all of the skates today are manufactured with a high level of quality, at least visually. Visually, they look amazing. But what I will say even more than that, to add on to that and to give them a bit of a plus, is that the liners genuinely felt amazing. They were this soft, pillow-like, I think the only way to describe it, if you've ever been into a toy section or a toy store, or even like these soft plush types of pillows, where you can squeeze them and it's like this rebounding memory foam where it puffs right back up. That seems to be the level of quality that were in these, I want to say they're some sort of MyFit liners, right? But that was 2022 when I just had my hands in them, I stuck my foot in them. But the downside I felt to a liner that was that soft and absorbent that will then fluff up is that I feel like a liner like that eventually with sweat and wear and tear and just your heat, the heat of your feet sweat, right? Just like your hands. Imagine wearing gloves all day, every day. And that's what we do to our feet. And I think it's actually counterproductive to general health and wellness. And I'm actually leaning towards maybe the shadow skate and skates that allow a more open toe breathable system in the future, at least, not right now. But continuing with the updates. So it's redesigned shell with more space for the front foot. It's a recrafted Mesmer liner, making it thinner and more responsive. So maybe I could have fit into the size 9-10, but we will see. They reworked the back of the shell to prevent the cuff from overextending. Okay, so just hearing all of that is giving me red flags that maybe the price point for $289 means that maybe it is not the highest quality skate. Sometimes looks can be deceiving. They revamped the recess for screws, anti-rivets, and bolts for improved functionality. They added a top eyelet for the shoelaces to provide additional support and stability. They added a tougher PA sole plates, so that's probably, okay, PU is polyurethane, PA is I think poly, I don't know, sole plates to last longer. It's some sort of, maybe it's polyacrylic, I don't know, but it's the plastic on the sole plate. Think of P as usually poly, as in some sort of synthetic plastic, oil-based once again. Modified U-cut cuff. And the specifications on the skate are that they are 60 millimeter wheels with 90A durometer on the outside and 95A durometer on the inside. It is a Kaiser Fluid V, as in 5 frame, and allegedly comes with Wicked bearings ABEC 9. So that being said, I don't want to hesitate too much. I want to get into this unboxing and first impressions. It is now 5:10 p.m. and I will get to it. How do I want to do this? This is that shrink wrap. Everybody wants to be a star. Everybody want to be a star. Damn, they really got this thing in here thick. Oh, shit. Goddamn. Shite. Oh my God, don't ever do that. Don't ever cut towards yourself, especially not your neck, your face, your throat. Worst possible practice. When you're cutting, I learned this at Home Depot, unpacking boxes and doing shrink wrap. You always cut away, always. So that was an amateur, that was definitely an Apollo amateur move right there. I should definitely be booed off stage, set, you name it, for that rookie behavior. They really got this thing wrapped well. I cannot front. All right, so as we are unboxing, I think it's quite interesting that there are photos of the team on the rear of the box. I think team collaboration and just having a general sense of community is so important. I think what's more important than just having photos of people on the box is knowing, for me personally, as part of my initiatives, is knowing that these photographs, the photographer one is being compensated for his artistry, for his time and effort to take these photographs. Even if they were just cell phone photos, it would make me even more excited and ecstatic to know that the individuals in these photos in some form or fashion are being compensated to have their pictures taken, and not just being told, hey, you're on the team, here's a free pair of skates, you get a monthly check. Unless, of course, it's bundled into their contract that this type of promo is part of their day-to-day job description. But as someone who has worked not just in architecture and commercial real estate, but someone who has actually run his own business and had to hire people, fire people. And I don't mean younger, smaller, sillier, stupid people. I mean hire and fire people who are older than me, more experienced than me, more knowledgeable than I am. And then when you have to learn how to write contracts and do research and proposals, there's a lot that goes into running and managing a business of any kind, of any nature. So I'll do quickly, I'll just give you the box, right? This is the rear with some team photos, if you can see it. This is the sizing. All right. This is the other side, reminiscent of a Solomon skate almost, with that giant UFS logo, Universal Frame System. I want to say Solomon is one of the pioneers with the UFS system. I love that. I love this cross logo on the Mesmer, the skate brand. All right. What else is there? So the UFS on that side, there's the Team Skate logo on this side. All right. And without further ado, I think I've given you all the sides really. All right, let's give you the front of the box. You know, looking at the packaging now, I want to say the only thing that does come to mind with a lot of these companies is representation for POC, people of color. Yes, I think what's amazing is that they have Amber Mills on there. I used to think her name was, oh, is it? No, it's Amber Smiles. I used to read her Instagram name completely wrong for years until finally someone was like, they said her name and I was like, oh, is that what it is? I had the letters mixed up. But either way, people of color, yes, you have some Latin Americans, South Americans, you have Amber for one, but I think people of color to me means someone who's actually black, someone who's actually from the ghetto, someone who is actually poor to an extent and maybe could benefit from being on a team such as this. So anyways, let's unbox this skate. Right, again, I did not pay for these. These were gifted to me, or I should say I won the Boshi Pope Skate Off raffle. There was a raffle. You could pay to compete or you could pay for the raffle, right? So this comes in it comes in one of these really, I'm seeing this with a lot of the Power Slide products, this recycled bag, right? You can obviously rip it with your hands, right? It rips very easily. I'm doing this all as a test, right? I love to test things. But to me, it's just a cool bag to have. The skate generally feels relatively light. You've got your very hard, durable cardboard roll. I want to compare this to not even toilet paper, not even paper towels. It's a lot more durable, right? I'm giving you feedback because this is something I would purchase as an architectural student when I'm making models. So this is something I'm probably going to keep for future use for, you know, God knows what, but it might come in handy. I'm just giving you a first look at the skate. This arm is fucked up, so I cannot hold it with this arm. I cannot extend my arm and hold any weight on my right. Right, so this gives you a look at the skate. Since we're here, I'll just flip this that way. All right, I'll give you a little angle this way. This is the other side. Bring it back a little bit. Yeah, I think these buckles, I see what they're doing with these buckles. This is pretty cool. Okay. The liners are definitely a thinner liner. And it's weird that I think this is very weird that they did this. Like, why would you, and they call this a U shape? This is very odd to me that there's this barely minimum U shape here. A barely visible U shape, I should say. For them to even consider it market, like for you to call it like U and then say you're marketing U, like it's barely noticeable. And when you put the liner this high, you're talking a liner that is, how many inches? So yeah, you're talking almost 2 inches of liner rise above the cuff. So to me, it's just like, what's going on? However, it's not much different from my razors. My razors are a little bit more than 2 inches, but that's because I'm using the Tim Franken Power My Fit liners in there. But yeah, overall, it's not a bad product, right? So we got one of these out. There's a corrugated cardboard on the inside. Again, you know, going back to my architectural model making roots, these are things that I would definitely like to keep. If not for the skate and repackaging this skate, or maybe packaging another skate or another product, you know, I would keep it for making small architectural models and things of that nature. Okay, this is the other skate. Before I go further, I'm gonna empty this here. This comes with a few products. You've got your silica gel that you do not want to eat unless you are, I don't know, trying to commit suicide. Desiccant. Yeah, these are designed to absorb moisture. 2 of them, which is good. I'm surprised there wasn't one in each section here. Now this is pretty cool, I'm not going to lie, right? So as I'm scrolling through this Mesmer catalog, right? This little Mesmer catalog, and then there's the Instagram group, the Facebook group on the back. Well, I say catalog, but it's an instruction manual. But most instruction manuals are very lackluster. Like they suck. Like they suck hard. Like, so the fact that you open this instruction manual and you are gifted with essentially lifestyle photos of the so-called community and industry, to me, this is very important. When I dream back to 2002, when I picked up my first pair of aggressive inline skates, part of the marketing and packaging that made me fall in love with it was the fact that I bought a pair of skates that were team skates, but Vinnie Minton was on the cover, on the box. He was on some of the photos. And yes, he might have had some fronts or some grills, you know, he had his hat, you know, he's in California wearing all sweats, so I didn't really understand that, but I just accepted it. Being from New York, I just accepted that wherever he was cold. And, oh, is he from San Francisco? He's from the Bay Area, right? So either way, hyphy, right? So either way, Venancio Minton, right? Either way, all of that to me appeals to a young individual who's getting into the culture and the sport for the first time. They see something like this, they have something they can carry. They might see you at the next event. They want your signature. They see this and they don't know who they are yet, and they're learning what it is to be an aggressive inline roller skater. They're learning what it is to be part of the culture. And to me, video, great, but you can scroll all you want on Instagram and Facebook. But a kid that has a picture like this in his book, or a picture like this when he's going to class and he's getting bullied, or maybe he is the one bullying others, he has this image, and without the video, he's constantly wondering, what the F is going on there? Is this guy rolling on the fence? Is he stalling on the fence? Like, this is such a foreign concept. Like, our sport, our culture is so foreign to most people that even when they see it in real time, like I can attest to this phenomenon, right? Where I've walked past people skating at Battery Park when I was a child to go visit the Statue of Liberty. And it was so foreign in my brain what they were doing that it didn't even register to stop and look and marvel at it. It was like, what are they doing? It's like, it was so alien that it didn't even register. Like, can you imagine seeing a flying saucer and going, what is that? And not caring? That's what aggressive inline roller skating, I truly believe, embodies. It embodies a very alien-like feeling that most people will never really understand unless they're given a chance to understand it. Unless they're sort of welcomed, or even like this. This is a good start for an instruction manual to be of this high quality. This to me speaks volumes, because too often it's a cheap paper that you throw out. It's things that you don't keep. And what often happens is that people don't realize how important these manuals are. These manuals, if this is done right, will tell you how to change your bearings, how to rotate your wheels so that they last longer. All of these were things that I took into account when I bought my first pair of Salomon skates, first pair of aggressive skates in 2002. I would go through this in a lot of detail, but just the fact that there are a few photos is amazing. You know, I'll show you this. And let's just scroll just briefly, right? So this is just a glance at what some of the instruction manual looks like. I gotta say, they are winning with this instruction manual. And obviously the fact that there's a Facebook and Instagram link, huge kudos for that. And here's, yep, there's the instruction for swapping your wheels. Changing your wheels. Heavy distribution, 828 Coronado Avenue, 90804 Long Beach, California. Action photos by David Montes Aldea. 35mm photos by Mark Moreno. I think Mark's real name is actually Enajo, or Enajo if I'm not mistaken, but all you have to do is pull up some old skate videos and you'll see. General information, thank you for choosing Mesmer. No modifications shall be made that impair safety. Visual instruction 1, visual instruction 2. Check axles, mounting bolts, sharp edges, remove wheels, maintenance and care, braking without using the brakes, skating skills, information of usage, skate maintenance. Before every skate, check axles, check all wheel spin. That's a habit I have done, I think, throughout my entire skate career from 2002 until now. And the reason why is because it happens to you once or twice. And again, for such a high risk and even a possible fatality in this sport, in this culture, I don't like taking things for chance. I don't like the chance that I could jump on a trick and my cuff bolt comes out and my whole cuff comes apart or my frames come apart. And these things have happened to me throughout the years. But what I will say, and I'm echoing what I said a few minutes earlier, is that USD products in general, to my knowledge, not their carbon products, but their hard boot products, throughout all of the years of skating USDs, and I haven't really skated USDs at all, but throughout all the years of having USD products, particularly cuff screws, or skating with other skaters that have USD products, almost without fail, their cuff screws often almost come loose. And I just don't get that phenomenon. Like, why can't your cuff screws stay in place? So I'm just throwing it out there, but that's just something that I have noticed over the years. And because of that issue, I've always made sure that my hardware and my things were tight and taut. Now, I mostly skated Razor products throughout the years, some Rollerblade here and mix and match. And I often customize products. But because I do such good maintenance and regular checkups on my skates and checking screws and axles and things of that nature, I rarely ever had an issue with anything malfunctioning. And the few times they malfunction is because I went above and beyond with a customization. So this right here, this is, that's gold. Like, that's marketing gold, that's marketing genius. You have your little tiny bag here, which I don't think people will keep, but this could be a good bag for carrying wax if I don't break it upon opening it. I don't even know how I would actually do so. Maybe this thing. All right, I'm not one to, okay, let's try to be gentle. Let's try to be gentle. You know you have it. You can be gentle, come on. You can be gentle. I could be gentle, but we are now approximately, we're almost 30 minutes into this recording. So gentle, I can wait for later. This is your very basic hex L key, usually called an L key or Allen key. But this portion here is designed to pop your bearings. And then you have a smaller L-shaped version. Are they both the same? Yeah, they're both exactly the same diameter of hex, right? So that's that. I'll put those to the side. I'll put this bag in here. I'll take this cardboard out. This cardboard comes out. Manual comes out. Maybe the manual would like to take a ride right here with us. Skate comes out. Yikes. So, again, this is just first impressions, unboxing. I don't know how people shoot these videos in, 20 seconds, 30 seconds and say, well, there you have it, great skate, go get it. Either they're getting paid to do it or they just have so much on their hands that they don't have the time to really give an F. I do, I care about it more than you will ever know. I feel like I should show you the bottom of the skate so you get some details. I think the cuff detail is just absolutely amazing if you can really get in there and see what's happening, right? This receptacle moves this way and you pull it out. This is not a cuff that you can undo with one hand. And what I mean by that is when my foot, if I injured my hand and I have to take my skate off with one hand, what I do with the cuffs that I have on my Jeff Howard shifts is that you see how this, you pull, my cuffs are essentially, my cuff receptacles are facing the other way, and all you do is push it with one hand. So essentially with one hand, I can both grab the cuff, push, and loosen everything. I guess you could, can you? Yeah, you could, but it doesn't move as quickly. I want to just demonstrate so you guys have a good idea of what I'm referring to here. So one hand, right? I'm holding it, and I don't even have to hold it necessarily. The weight of my foot leaning forward, right? So if my foot were leaning forward and I would have pushed on this, see, it automatically loosens. I think the downside is that if you bang onto this, it can prevent you from keeping your feet locked in while you're skating. So that is, I think, a work in progress for a one-handed buckle enclosure system, right? So not to digress too far, I think this is noteworthy here, this little detail. All of these little details to me add up to a product where I go, wow, they did all of that for $289, right? Under $300. Let's see if I can get this liner out of here. There's a little sticker on here, right? The Kaiser frames it has its Kaiser logo on the axles. Do the wheels say what they are? It says 90A and then 95A. Now this to me is such a difficult task to produce wheels that are 90 and 95A, right? I don't know if you can see that, but it's such a small detail in terms of density. And then when you're in a factory printing this many wheels that are almost the same color, they actually are a slightly different color. I don't think you can see it on camera, but I certainly can. I can see that the outside wheels are more closer to a white translucent, and the middle wheels have a bit of a yellow, almost a yellowish hinge to them. A yellowish hue, not hinge. I think I combined the words hue and tint, or tinge, is tinge a word? Either way, I'm prepared to test these all, right? Because I have what is known as a Sure A durometer tester. Now this durometer tester comes with a block, right? And this block is designed to be, so like this block is supposed to be 66A durometer, and the way to test it is to make sure that the temperature is 68. And the way that I do that is I usually take this, put it in the fridge until it cools down, because right now it's probably 7 degrees in this room, especially with the lights. And then you can pick up one of these from your hardware store. It's an electrician tool, right? Klein tools, and you press this button and this will give you a temperature reading. You know how you go into a facility, a medical facility, and they check your temperature for, COVID or fever. This works in just the same fashion. I can point this at a light bulb. I can point it at a hot surface, at a cold surface. You can point it directly at fire, and essentially it's a laser, and it gives you the temperature reading. So my palm is reading 91.4. My neck feels hot as shit. Oh, that's the wrong button. Let's see what my neck is reading. All right, we'll turn this guy off. Let's just read my neck. Okay, so my neck is 90. Let's read this plastic. I don't know if you can see here. So this is coming in at 86. And ideally, we want the plastic to read 60, but right now it doesn't matter. I mean, these are such a high durometer that whether it's 60 or 90 degrees, I don't think it's gonna make a huge difference, right? But again, this is food for thought when you are skating out in the blistering cold or I should say blistering heat or sweltering heat, blistering cold, vice versa, you name it, right? So let's just go ahead and give this a test. But this block is essentially designed so that I can test that this is functioning. So if this is supposed to be, so let's say we're 20 degrees above the normal reading, and this should be 66, right? So the way this works is that you press down and the dial should tell you where we are at. So it looks close. I mean, it's close to 65, right? So this lets me know that this is calibrated to an extent. And this is a long acre durometer, short A durometer tester, right? So long acre racing. I think it's used for car racing. So the outside wheel is supposed to be 90A. So let's give that a test. This is going to be a little tricky. Little bit tricky. Little bit tricky. I don't know if you can see here. So I might actually need to step aside and bring this right up to the camera. Okay, so we'll do the outside wheel. Can you see? And the tricky part is that the wheels are round, so they move. So as you can see, it's close to 90, right? I'm not gonna, and sometimes it's very difficult to get this pin stabilized, because if I'm holding this here and it's rotating, the reading is gonna be that much more difficult to get. So let me try it this way. Okay, so the fact is that I was close to 90, but I wanna get, you know what, maybe I do it on the side of the wheel. That might help, instead of the base of the wheel. Ugh. So if I do here, let's see if this works. If I do it here, geez, this is so hard. And it's easier if I take the wheel off, but for now, we're keeping it on. So if I do here, wow, that's 80. And that's because I'm probably not getting a good point of pressure. But when I do here, if you can actually see, and this is the 90A. Okay, so we're getting close to 90. That's good. I just have to hold it steady. If you hold the head steady, I'm gonna milk the cow. Okay, let's see if I can get the middle wheels, which are supposed to be 95, and genuinely they look like they are a more, geez, it's so difficult. All right, I'm gonna have to take one of these wheels out if I'm going to do this correctly. And I don't like this process because I now have to you know, I'm gonna take them out because this is a good test anyway. I need to also measure the actual size of the wheels. They say 60 millimeters. Again, too often I've gotten products in the last couple of years where it says 60 and it's a 58, or it says 55 and it's a, you know, and it's just not what it says it is. And I'm okay with it being off a millimeter here. Inconsistency, I understand manufacturing can be a little off, but if you're advertising a product, that's what I expect. I should note these are what the axles look like. So they're a long female with a short male. I am sweating bullets. All right, let's put this here. That's what this whole stand is for. I don't think you can see the stand that I'm using. This is a but yeah, some people put their skates on, they go skating, they don't ever check the products. I guess this is important to show because I do want to see that it also does have ABEC 9. Whether or not it's a true ABEC 9, we might not know. But when I compare a product like that to a product like this, a Rollerblade product, let me see if I have one of these that are open. I might have one that's partially open. I feel like you can see the difference in the wheel, you know, so they might call that an ABEC 9 just so they can maybe charge you more money, but I don't know. So these are Rollerblade SG9 training bearings. So these are designed for racing, right? These are designed for speed racer. So this is one test I love to do. I just like to spin it in the fingers. And then I like to actually insert them and see how well they spin. So that your Rollerblade, you know, 9 bearings, right? Again, we're just testing things here. Let's take another wheel out. Let's take the front wheel out. Okay, this is weird. I'm trying to remove the front wheel and both axles are spinning, so I have to use a tool. Yikes. Okay. So let's just first do the durometer one more time. 90A, if you can see clearly, I don't know. But when I apply pressure, it comes out to 90, right? So that's good. And if you can see closely, I don't know if you can tell, but I can tell with the naked eye that there is a difference in color of these two wheels. The 90A, which is the softer wheel, has a slightly, like I said, translucent. This one seems creamier, and this one, I don't know how to describe it. This one has, I feel like the harder wheel has a bit more of a yellowish look. I guess in terms of shades of color, I would say the harder wheel is a little darker, and this is a bit lighter. So let's try the 95 and see what we get. All right, I gotta hold this steady. And not getting a 95, you know, not quite. You know, now the real test, you know, maybe I try it on the sides. Maybe on the sides it will read correctly. This thing requires so much like force. Not quite getting a reading. So that's just, again, this is just food for thought. I'm just holding them in my hand. You know, again, these things are marketed. Sometimes they are gimmicky to an extent because from 90 to 95 is such a small change that I don't know that it truly makes a big difference. I'm gonna test this again, but let's just jump ahead and let's just say that these are both essentially coming in at 90A durometer, right? So they're both the same hardness to our knowledge, right? Again, the settings, the controlled environment, it's not precise and it's not ideal. So my device could be off by a bit. The temperature could be throwing things off. The other thing I should point out that if you understand science, math, and things of that nature, right? A lot of these things are not perfect. Science is a loose general understanding of our natural and known environment. Take, for example, the value of gravity. If you understand how science works, right? The scientific community in all different parts of the world, in different cities, countries, they have studied gravity and they have realized that gravity fluctuates very frequently, very often. But it fluctuates as a wave fluctuates, right? Gravity fluctuates between, let's say, X and Y, and maybe even Z, and then ABC. So gravity is ABC, X, Y, Z, at any given time of day, place, location on the planet. So what the scientific community has done so that they could communicate in terms of science, the same way how we communicate in terms of our trick jargon and our lingo. You do a topsail, I know it's a topsail, right? Whether you're speaking English or you're speaking Dutch or French or German. The scientific community has agreed that, you know what, gravity is 9.6 or whatever the number is, I forget, or is the rate of which gravity is 9.6, whatever it is per second or something. And they have done that because it's ABC, XYZ in so many different parts. It's so it varies so much. And I mean, when I say so much, it's not like a huge variable, but because it has fluctuations when it's measured in different times of day, different places on the planet, and there are different circumstances that affect your gravity, they have collectively decided as a community, we're gonna make gravity 9.6 so that we can then calculate other things. And they have set that as a standard. So as of right now, I'm setting this as a standard based on what I have calculated, that these two, even though I'm trying to squeeze it, I'm just trying to just use rudimentary techniques, right? Just by pushing and feeling. It's 5 durometers difference. I think ultimately they are very close if they are not exact, because the measurements show that they are 90A, both of them, the middle wheels and the exterior wheels. So let's move on to the caliper and get the size. These are all supposed to be 60 millimeter wheels. So I have here what is a regular caliper, manual, and a digital, so you can actually see the reading. I like to start with my manual because the digital sometimes gives readings that I find are just too, they're just too precise sometimes. And I don't, when I say precise, it's like, it'll say 60.223 and it's, or whatever. And it's like, no, I like this because I can actually get the true measurement here. So you can do it this way. All right, so if I did it this way, this is exactly 60 millimeters, right? It's right on the 6, if you can see that, right? It's right on the 6. I often like to try 1 or 2 wheels, but it doesn't hurt to try them all. All right, I'll just do this one briefly. And I often check my wheels as they wear down, just so I get an idea of what kind of wear and tear goes into these products, you know, how quickly they wear down. That, I guess, gives me an idea of durability. Okay, so that was that. Let's just do the digital version for your knowledge, for the video knowledge, right? So I don't know if this is even visible, but if I bring this down, right, you see what I mean? So like this is saying 60.16, right, 60.37, it changes, you know what I mean? So depending on where I hold it, you want to get it exactly center line. 60.35. That's the only reason I do not like the digital. Like this is 59.98, 60, if you can see that. Can you see that? Anyways. Okay, so we've gotten that done. Let's do a quick time check. I'm trying to keep this under an hour. We are at the 45-minute mark. Let's turn this off. Oh, the bearings. I want to check the bearings. I'm only comparing the bearings to... So this is my bearing check. I just do a basic rudimentary check, right? Just if I'm holding this and spinning it and it doesn't seem like it's going, it's not like whisking through my fingers, I got doubts about the rating. And if you know ABAC ratings and bearings, and you've done your research, and there's a video that I have in one of my channels saved under, I think, product reviews, and it's a video from a skateboard company, I believe, or a knowledgeable skateboarder per se, and they basically break down bearings, and they tell you that it's, not to say that it's a hoax, but it's a gimmick, right? Because the difference between an ABAC, yes, bearings can roll faster and slower between ABAC 3 and ABAC 9, but the way it's explained is that unless you are operating high-end industrial machinery and equipment, let's say an elevator, right? A high-rise building elevator that's using giant urethane wheels, the same wheels that look like these on the inline skates and the wheels that you see on your scooters and your big wheel inline skates. There's small wheels, big wheels, same types of bearings and equipment that are used on tractors and cranes that are used for construction, aviation industry, locomotive industry, trains and train tracks. All of these things have urethane products, wheels and bearings as part of their systems. And the way it was broken down is that if you're not using that level of intense force and pressure, then the bearing rating boils down to marketing, meaning it kind of means nothing. And I think this is interesting to note because Mind Game, a company now defunct, had bearings that to me worked perfectly. And then there's also the thing about ceramic bearings, which I have yet to actually try, but I do intend to get a pair sometime in the near future and give them a dirty water, mud, rain, sleet, snow test. But this is to give you an idea of what the ABAC the Wicked ABEC 9 bearings look like. If you can see what we have here, right? So it's got the clear cap. I love this feature. This is common. This was very common on the crap bearings that was made very popular with Eulogy wheels. I don't think I see crap bearings that often, but crap bearings are one of my all-time favorite bearings. And I think this sort of cap removal thing is a historical move that came about as a trend from skateboarding because they wanted to make noise when they roll down the street. Skateboarders don't like quiet trucks when they're skating. They don't like their skateboards to be quiet. At least trick skateboarders or aggressive skateboarders, as I call them, right? Because you have longboarders, you have dancers, boarders that dance. So most of the skate park skateboarders, I don't call them skaters, I call them aggressive skateboarders. So that's your bearing here, right? Versus a more expensive racing bearing from Rollerblade. And I would love to know where my scale is so that I can just do quick measurements on these two bearings. But sometimes the components and the metal in these might be cheaper. Maybe the lubricant is cheaper. I'm spinning this between my fingers. I don't think you can see, but they both might have a similar spin sort of life cycle. So let's put the Rollerblade SG9s into this product. That was what I was looking for. Is that the spacer? You bastard. Where'd you go? Oh, don't hide from me now. Anywhere but now. Where'd you go? Oh shit, it's right behind me. That's weird. The audio sounded like it went forward, but it actually went behind me. Okay. Found the spacer, just so you're aware. This is the spacer that comes in the skate. I think these are the, you know, you have different types of spacers that come in some of these products. So this spacer is approximately 1 millimeter by almost 1 millimeter. Not 1 millimeter, sorry, 10 by 10. So it's almost 10. Oh, okay, now we know where you are. So it's almost 10 by 10. Yeah, 10 by 10 millimeters. Okay, get the spacer into the wheel, and we put the, so we're only using the Rollerblade, right? Sometimes it could be the wheel, the core of the wheel, it could be the spacing, and sometimes you just need to put the boots on and go outside and roll, and you'll see. So this is your stock setup. It's not rolling a whole bunch. You know what? I think this is not pushed in all the way. There we go. Oh well, wait a second. Let's see what we've got here. So okay, that's that. I feel there's a slight difference. I feel like the Rollerblade bearings tad bit faster. Might be true to an ABEC 9. These could just be marketed. They could also be an ABEC 9, but I'm not going to quote and say that they definitely are not. What I will say is that these are both, in my opinion, 90A. Until I can really definitely prove them otherwise, I'm gonna say that they're both 90A. Okay, so that being said, the only thing left to do is to really take the liners out, break the boot down even further, and put them on. Let's get this out of the way. Okay, so as I'm looking at this here now, these liners have a pair of lacings at the top, and the boot has a set of lacings. The liner has this, you know, very small 2 eyelet set of lacings, as you can see on the top. The tongue is very fat and puffy, which I do enjoy. I think it helps also as like a second layer or second skin in terms of shin protection, right? Because your shin goes deep into the boot, and I find too often if I hit part of my shin where the shin guard is not placed, I end up damaging my foot. So I do like having a thicker more padded tongue. I think it generally helps for protection and generally helps with flexibility doing certain tricks. And I think sometimes too, what happens is that a lot of tricks that require you to flex and bend, you end up cutting your foot into the plastic because the liner is too thin or too cheap where it needs to be padded. So this, I think so far, is giving me some hope. This is an idea of what the inside looks like. I love the detail I'm seeing here. All right, I don't think you, let me step around here. I'm really liking this side detail. Let's take these out. This elastic portion here, the attention to detail on these remind me of actual footwear and sneaker design, and I love it. I love when that attention to detail goes all the way, right? And even this, if you notice the inside here, so the exterior is flat and normal. It's smooth to the touch. You've got neoprene on the heel and neoprene, flexible material on the toe. I love that the toe is not pinched. I think in some of the Razor skate stock products that I have purchased, this is like completely flattened out, and it's just annoying. There's just a little bit of paper on the inside. You have your MyFit size large, 9 through 12, removable Velcro, or I should say loop and enclosure shock absorber, which is not very thick, but still good enough to do you justice. All right, this is about the same diameter as your spacer, which is about, oh, actually, no, it's a little bit bigger. How thick is this exactly? It's about 10 millimeters or 1 centimeter, right? Overall, this is pretty good. I think people confuse these straps often with like a shoehorn, or they say it's a pull tab where you can stuff your foot in your skate. But these are not, on most skates, I should say. On most skates, this is simply designed as a carrying strap so you can carry your skates while the weight of the boot hangs on. And just by looking at it, I see it's single stitched at the top, and it looks like it's done in a very unique fashion where maybe it's designed so that it won't come out, so maybe you could use it. But I've found too often when you yank on these, you end up ripping them right off. This honestly feels like it might not go anywhere anytime soon. Just feeling the skate, just trying to get an idea of what I'm dealing with here. This little wrinkle here gives me some kind of cause for concern, but hopefully it's not the end of the world. As we take the footbed out, you see it's labeled 46. I don't know what that means per se. I don't know if that's the size, but just looking at the quality of this and just how frail and thin this is, this gives me some insight that it's not the most high-end product that you're going to get, but it is still, it still works, it still functions. I have a habit of taking these out and replacing them. So sometimes I wear a lot of Van sneakers, and I find this is a good sort of sustainable practice for you if you buy a lot of sneakers, shoes, if you're just big into footwear, and let's say you throw out shoes oftentimes I find that you don't need to throw out a pair of shoes, especially if the exterior is not damaged. I find too often the interior of the sneaker or the shoe usually can be replaced, right? A new footbed, sometimes I get the Dr. Scholl's. Sometimes I just take it from an older shoe where the outside is worn, but the interior isn't, and maybe this has more padding. And then I find that this goes a long way. And I often take it from like sports shoes, like a basketball shoe or a boot that has not been worn. But this, I can tell, is going to get a toe imprint very quickly, and that is going to start affecting, to me, my sense of balance and just my sense of comfort in the skate. So something like this I will often replace with a thicker piece in the rear. And it's not about shock absorption on gaps and stunts. It's just about regular wear and shock absorption when you're rolling over bumps and cracks, potholes, and just odd terrain throughout the city. The inside, let's see, it's pretty basic, right? There's not much going on in here. You can see the stretches with my hands, right? I just want to see if this stretches with my hands, just so you can kind of see. So this does not stretch much with your hands. I think this is dope. On the inside, it's bulged in two particular areas that ride, so that basically it's designed to almost like fangs on a snake that will hook your ankles in so that your heel doesn't lift. But I think that's interesting if you can see the two bulges on either left and right ankle. All right, so we'll put this back inside. The stitching details look okay from the inside. This product smells pretty good. I think that's also a plus. There is a plastic footbed, and that generally helps, I guess, to prevent the screws and maybe just add, I don't know what the functionality of these are, but I would have to just assume that it's just to kind of help set the liner in place, right? So that the liner, you know, the liner has a shock absorber on it. How'd you get off? All right, so here's our liner with our shock absorber, and then here's this plastic. And I think if this is directly inside of the boot, which is plastic and then has steel screws protruding, or steel bolts and things, you know, things like that eventually will damage the bottom of your liner. So I think things like this boot, or I should say the plastic footbed, helps preserve the lifespan of the liner bottom, which you want. But yeah, I think it's interesting to note what the interior here looks like if you can see it. Hopefully things are not getting in the way. All right, can you see that? Is the light shining on it? And then at the top, all right, if you look at it this way, it clearly says Mesmer 43 to 44 large. Again, looking at this boot, it does look very narrow in profile. Looking at it this way, I can see how this toe area could possibly have been raised. But I think all the Mesmer skates have that look. The cuff bolts on the interior. Let's open this back up. All right, the cuff bolts on the interior. So the cuff bolts on the interior, they look good. They look like the type that might fall out once you undo the cuffs. I'm not going to do all of that just yet. I love that there's a little tiny screw way in the back here. If you can see that far. Right back there. What I do love to do before I even put the skate on precisely is I like to just put my foot into the shell without the liner. Now, my foot is in this shell without the liner, and I can feel the sides already pressing, and that gives me a little bit of insight into what to expect. And I've got about 2 inches of room in front of my toe, so that is a plus. But I'm skeptical that this might be a little snug on the foot just from that quick little test right there. So let's jam this in here. Okay, I know we just got cut off there, but what I like to do is this right here. Let's just do I'm just gonna add a little weight on the hands and then see what reading they come out to. I think I was getting, no, I'm not getting any reading. I accidentally hit the stop record button, but let's just say 4.6 is each skate, then why not, right? If that's 4.6, and then you are 4.8 roughly. Let's try it this way. 4.8, just to give you an idea of what we're getting. Again, 10.5, 11 shell. 4.6. Let's see what we got here with this guy. 3.8. Yeah, and these are worn down too, so keep that in mind. All right, let's just do one more test. 4.8. Let's see if I do it this way. Okay, 4.6. I'm gonna go with 4.6. That's the most consistent measurement that I've been getting. And I think I'm gonna wrap this up as of right now. The Mesmer TS2 review. Hoy vey, I'm so tired now. And here we go. Okay, I had to cut there for a second. I had some technical difficulties with the audio. Hopefully the audio is being captured properly as we speak. During that downtime, I was able to jump on the computer and review a lot of the content as well as the audio content. I then even took it further and broke the boot down so that I have a true measurement of everything, including and especially the frames, right? That being said, I can dive into that detail, but I want to first show you what happens, just what the frame looks like when it's broken down. And then I want to give you some insight on the cost of these frames. I believe the Fluid 5 frame retails for about $50 US according to the Kaiser website. These frames come in only 2 sizes, right? That size is, so it's a small and a large. The small will fit US 6 to 9 or EU 38 to 41. The large will fit US 9 to 12 or EU 42 to 45. What else is noteworthy? The weight is about 283 grams, which when compared to all of the other frames that I have used in the last year, including the Ground Control Featherlight 4 frames, the Caltic frames, the Create Original frames in a large size, I think they are the heaviest, I think, other than, they are the heaviest I think I have thus far. They are an injection mold, as most frames are. And what else is noteworthy? I measured everything from the spacing, the gaps, the length, the frame size. The length of the small frame comes in, the wheelbase, I should say. The length of the wheelbase is centerline to centerline. On the small frame, that comes in at 245 millimeters. On this particular pair, it is 268 millimeter. But I only took them apart and broke them down so that I can weigh them properly, weigh the spacers, weigh the bearings, weigh everything separately. But then something that's always been interesting to me is to see what the silhouette of the boot looks like without the sole plates, right? So this is what we have happening here, right? As you can see, the bottom is pretty smooth and basic. However, there is a very gradual shift, right? So if this almost like a high heel shoe, right? Where this part here is lower and this part here is higher. And I'm only showing you that so if you were looking to customize and use these on another product, you would have to deal with that compensation aspect. There are 4 screws that mount into the base. Let me see, and I feel like the screws are different sizes. So this is another issue to me in terms of just general skate maintenance that makes certain things a little bit more complicated, right? Because screws are different sizes, it means you can misplace screws, it means you can lose them. So here I already have 2 different size screws, right? And then what are these 2? Okay, so it almost looks like, okay, this is good insight. So 2 of the screws are exactly the same size or almost the same size. Geez, holy moly guacamole. So what we're looking at essentially is 4 different screw sizes, if I'm not mistaken. You've got a very small one that's a little bit taller, and then you have kind of the same thing happening here, right? But in longer length. So that to me says, holy cow, you have to be careful with this product in terms of putting the hardware back in place. And to me, when you have a product that has that much maintenance or that high level of maintenance intricacies, it means there's a lot of room for error, right? As I'm trying to put them back in now, I'm not sure which goes where, but I will assume that the 2 longer ones go in the rear and maybe the longest goes on the positive sole side, but it's just so hard to tell. Now, the main reason I took that off is because when I took the frames off, what I noticed was that I'm left with this. These are your frame bolts that you have to mount. And this to me has always been a big headache and nuisance in the skate community when the axles and the bolts and things are uneven, whether it's the front or rear, back, left, right, versus whatever the case is. So I'm just giving you that food for thought that you're dealing with two different size screws and axles. And I say that because, you know, sometimes I have a lot of Sunshine distribution products that are designed for Razor skates and, you know, Remedy skates, and they can work with other products. But the frame bolts, for example, that Sunshine carries comes in only two sizes, small and large, and none of them are this long, right? The long might be this size. So these are just things I think about when I'm getting a product, when I'm looking for customizability and things of that nature. This here is interesting as well. This padded interior, as you can see, it says Mesmer 4344A, right? But it almost looks like this can peel away, right? Like almost like an inner, yeah, it definitely can peel away. You know, I'm doing this because I want you guys to know what you're getting into here, right? So this is this bottom layer. Is there any printed sizing on here? Yes, it says 43 to 44 large. I don't know if you can see it, but it's, which way is it facing? It's right above my finger, if that is clear at all. Right, so we're putting this back on top. All right, this adds a little, another level of padding and shock absorption, if you will, right? But ultimately, to me, this lets me know that I have to be cautious when taking parts off and putting them back. And again, it requires more maintenance. So that being said, I think they should also mention the fact that all of the hardware to mount the sole plate to the boot requires a Phillips head screwdriver, which unfortunately does not come in the packaging of this box. And to me, that is a faux pas of sorts, if you will. You're selling a product, but you're not selling the necessary tools to fix it. Sure, everyone might have a screwdriver or a Phillips head tool in their arsenal, but what if we don't, you know? What if? And I think this is something that could be easily remedied. Some skates I know use a hex key for that portion. You know, and I compare this to, let's say, like the Blank Rollerblade skate. The Blank Rollerblade Sean Keen and Team Skate comes as a product right out the box for anyone that is a beginner, that doesn't know what skating is, that doesn't understand they have to buy additional tools. And not to say a beginner cannot use these, but that's just food for thought. When you get these, you have to make sure you have something like this, a sonic tool that comes with a Phillips head built in. You know, you also have your two hex keys and a bearing popper built into all of these, bearing popper / puller. So food for thought. And I should also note that this buckle has the Kaiser logo on it, and it also uses a Phillips head mounting system, as most buckles do, right, on both sides. But what I didn't like about, it's not that I don't like the buckle, but what I didn't like is that I went on to heavydistribution.com, and with all of the marketing updates about this new improved skate, there was zero mention of this new improved Kaiser buckle. And I'm going, why wouldn't you want to advertise this awesome buckle? This entire skate comes in at a price point of $289, right? You know, and I don't know if it's because maybe this is now a team liner or a stock liner as opposed to a MyFit liner, because the MyFit liners range from $100 to, I think, from $80 to, you know, $200 and change. So all food for thought. Again, I'm sure they're all produced and manufactured by the same companies. It's just a preference as to how they brand and market them. But I'm showing you this. I could take the cuffs off and take other parts off, but I don't want to go any further. I actually had put the skates on and rolled around in the apartment briefly and was about to go outside when I said, let me just transfer all of the footage so I can free up some space. But we're putting this back onto the boot, the sole plate, right? Just so you can see what it looks like, right? Without it. With or without you. I feel like the silhouette here is reminiscent of a Jordan sneaker, if I'm being totally honest. It just gives me that Jordan vibe for some strange reason. Obviously not the toe cap area, but the rest of it does. And then when you add the sole, it comes together and it gives you a totally different look. But yeah, with or without you, oh. Let me see what else I should note, right? When I push on these points here, they do seem to move a bit This one here has a very sharp screw poking out, so you should be very careful. I think the instruction manual touches on safety of metal shards and pieces like that, but I don't know if you can see it from an angle, but there's a very sharp piece sticking out here, and that is actually what's holding that mounting piece in place. And I think that was one of the updates that they made, because it's very annoying when this falls into the boot, because then you have to take everything out, the liner, the inner footbed, and you now have to fumble with two hands, screws, a frame, a sole plate, and you're juggling all of these parts and pieces. So again, food for thought. So one piece at a time, I will insert this back into the boot. Yikes, oh, I thought that was the skate. I'm trying to minimize the loud noise. Okay, let's put this inside so this holds this down. But yeah, Kaiser buckle. All right, so let's flip this upside down. And let's see if I can make some sense of this with the screws. I'm going to assume that the longest of the sole plate to boot screws goes on, it looks like it might go on the negative. And let's see if this, the second longest, it's so hard to tell. Actually, no, you can kind of tell where they go. Okay, that one goes there, right? And I will use, since it's Phillips, I'm going to use this device. Honestly, this is not long enough to get all the way in, but it is a starter. And it is now 10:30. We started this process at approximately 5 p.m. to give you an idea of how much time was spent testing the frames, filling up a giant bin of water, you know, time spent getting all of the measurements with my, geez, I don't even have it with me. I had a tailor's measuring tape around my neck. I use that for the fine details. And here we're just putting the finishing touches on this, trying to get this one to lock in place. It's yikes. I should probably have I would love to have a padded floor. That way when these hard things fall, they don't make noise. One, for the cameras, and two, for the tenants that live below, if there are any. Let me see how recessed these are. Oh, so these are not that recessed. So the screws in the front do not go as deep as these in the rear. These are definitely recessed a lot more, right? Sure you can see that. I don't want to I don't want these too taut to the point where they're stripped and I can't get them out. But something like this tells me that with a little bit of moisture and water, which is inevitable when you're skating street and cutting through puddles and whatnot and just shit on the ground, chances of these corroding are high, or at least the receptacle, the threaded screw receptacle, if not the screw itself. All right, so this one seems fairly tight. Toit like a twiga. Toit like a twiga. All right. All right, so that's the boot. Das Boot. Das Mesmer. And because I did not remove the other frame, I'm going to match the frame, right? If you notice, the Kaiser frame, the Fluid 5 frame has the Kaiser logo, smack center, and then the Mesmer logo is simply printed on, whereas the Kaiser logo is on both left and right, or since it's symmetrical, it's on both sides. And I wanted to keep with the aesthetic of the way it came out the box. So I'm going to make certain that I put this frame on. So if this is the right foot, it means that the left foot should go in this fashion. All right. Like so. With the graphic, with the printed graphic in the rear. Now I will flip it and I will drop the humongous frame bolt into the hole. And that is a regular hex screw. So I can just drive that in. My right arm hurts like hell. Let's put this on here first. I should also note that the frame wall spacers, right? So these are the, or washers, if you will, these circular metal things that are in between each of the walls that keep the wheel from rubbing against the walls of the frame. So the frame wall spacers or washers. I find on a lot of skates the washers fall out just by tilting the boot and they drop. I think they do that. I think they fall out very easily on the ground control feather-like fours. I might be mistaken, but I'm just highlighting what I love is that they stay put on the Kaiser Fluid 5 frames. And now we will stuff these wheels in. All right. Now we're all back to ABAC 9 Wicked bearings. I removed the Rollerblade bearings that were in there previously. And as you can see, just a little bit of difficulty, but it's not the end of the world. Then you kind of wiggle this. Just want to wiggle it just enough to open those passageways. Make sure it's aligned. And then I have the very long female receptacle end of the screw and the short male end. So since I'm not too fussed right now, I don't care really where they go. I'll put the long female on the outside of the boot, on the positive sole side. I'll get this threaded started. Jesus, it's tough. All right, let's use a tool. Let's mount this on the drill. The drill has a magnetic tip, so that helps a lot. And I'll get that started. Then I'll move on to the next hole. Sometimes I find just having like a hard, not a hammer, but maybe a mallet or something that you can pound. Sometimes I find instead of struggling with the jiggling, you can just tap it once with a relatively blunt object and it will clear a path right through. The alternative is to just push and shimmy. And sometimes shimmying doesn't always work. You have to actually clear the gap first, reinsert, and then shimmy some more. And then, yeah, sometimes like this, you can just, if that doesn't work, I don't want this battery exploding. What's going on here? You can also spin the wheel too. That'll help you kind of get an idea of what's wrong. Yikes. And sometimes if your wheel isn't rolling correctly, you might notice that it's because the wheel might be skewed left or right in the frame channel, in the walls of the frames. And sometimes it could be the spacer, the washer. It could be an issue with the washers that are designed to keep them from touching those walls. Maybe that was not put in correctly, or maybe it wasn't snapped in flush. But for now, it looks like everything's okay. It's the spacer in between the wheels that is misaligned, that moves. So we're just gonna keep shimmying this until we get it. Again, I'm showing a lot of this real time because this is the reality of what you may deal with, you know? Jeez. It's not all blue skies. It's spinning perfectly. It's actually spinning better than it was before. And there we go. All right. So now that those two are started, I can put a key on one end. You put your key, I put my key in. Money will be seeing. Alrighty then. So, there you have it. Oh, Mesmer skate. Isn't she lovely? Isn't she lovely? I'm a bit concerned with these buckles just because it feels a tad flimsy to the touch when I move it up and down. Like if I were to bend this, again, the buckle is one of the most sensitive parts of the skate, and I feel like if I yank this up, I'm not sure if you're seeing what I'm seeing, but I feel like if I yank this, you know, like the metal, this very thin piece of metal gets warped. And that's not a good sign at all. These are rollerblade buckles. Okay, so this is a good comparison. Again, we're not knocking the product. We're just highlighting the differences. This is a Rollerblade Blank Buckle, right? And if you can look at, first of all, this buckle has been through some serious shit. You can see just how worn these are from skating and grinding very rough concrete ledge, the ledge in Roosevelt Island. But you can see just how thick this wall is. This is at least 1 millimeter or 2 thick. I should just measure it to give a more precise dimension. Because this one here is almost like, this is almost like the tin at the top of, you know, I want to say that this one here, what does this come in at? So this is coming in at exactly 1 millimeter thick. These, if you guys can see what I'm looking at here, I'm pointing at the metal here and at the bottom. Because if let's say sometimes I strap my skate or I tie something here to hold it, it means that when I'm carrying my skate, this whole thing has the potential to bend and warp, ultimately defeating the purpose of the buckle entirely. So those are coming in at exactly 1 millimeter thick, which is not thick enough for aggressive skating, in my opinion. And on the Rollerblade buckle, yeah, I don't know if you can see the little funky Rollerblade logo there, but this one here is coming in, wow, this is coming in at 1, 2, 3 millimeters. So 3 millimeters thick, as you can see just how much damage and wear and tear this can withstand, and it's still going. Right? The only downside is that I used these receptacles, but either way, let's jump back to the Mesmer. Oh, excuse me. I'm wondering what else I could really touch on that I have not. You know, I think the only thing left to do is get out and roll around on them. I will put them on just briefly, and then I will maybe skate inside the apartment for a second or two. What I should note is that when I rolled around earlier, I did notice a tad bit of heel lift, but I also did not fully lace them properly. I didn't tighten them properly. But right out of the box, where you can just throw your feet into a skate, again, the Rollerblade Blank team and Sean Keen skates are skates, in my opinion. I feel like Rollerblade has finally gotten it right, where I feel like for 3 decades, Rollerblade has been taking essentially their recreational skate and trying to make it work also as an aggressive skate. And I even quote them in a hip hop song, in a song that you can listen to on the album that I released on this channel. And I say something to the effect that fuck Rollerblade, holding shade. How are they gurus, but they don't know the sways, the USD sways, because the USD sways essentially took a recreational boot. And I say, how they gurus, but they don't know the sways, did what they tried to do with doo-doo skates for 3 decades. Basically what I'm saying is, it looks as if Rollerblade has been attempting to do what the USD sway has done like that. So maybe there was a lot of practice and trial and error behind the scenes on the USD sways, but in my opinion, the USD sways came out the gate swinging. I gotta do that again. Swinging, right? I can't do it. All right. Whatever, the second one was better. But out of the box, I love a skate where you can just throw your feet in, buckle them, go without doing too much lacings. Because sometimes I compare it to skateboarding, I compare it to scootering and BMXing. When I get outside on my BMX, my skateboard, my scooter, everything else except my inline skates, I get on it and I go. So for me, when you can shorten that time frame to just putting them on and going, you have done something magnificent and marvelous. That is also one of the downsides I personally have with the shadow skate, and why I was so desperately looking forward to the reverse skate. If you are familiar with the reverse skate, that was a partnership between some snowboard binding companies, Create Originals, and a few other entities that were involved. But I'm just buckling these without doing the lacings too much. And I'll just give you a first-hand look at what you've got here. Right, this is the view looking down. This is my feet bowed or boot down, and it actually hurts my ankle, so I'm gonna loosen this up just a tad. Jeez, I can't even loosen it up. Okay, there we go. That feels good. Let's loosen this one up. That feels good. Definitely some heel lift. First impressions, pull the tongue. Nothing happening here, but I'm noticing a little bit of pain on the side of the foot. I guess you can call it bunion-like pain. I'm just doing a little rolling around. The big issue I'm noticing, however, even though they are loose, is the heel lift, right? And the pain right here is noteworthy, because I'm not sure what is really going on. I think for the time being, we can call this I think we can actually call it, I don't know if you can see exactly how the skates look on my feet, as I'm standing, but maybe I will, I don't know. Maybe I can stand on something. There's something I can stand on without it looking too ridiculous. Let's get up on this chair briefly. So yeah, let's do this. And this is your Mesmer TS2 unboxing, first impressions. And overall industry professional insight, because I have been doing this for quite a long time. So I won't say that I'm an expert by any means on any of this, but I will say that I am an architect, if you will. Maybe a rollerblade architect. I just, that's always been the term that I used because rollerblades were the first recreational skates that I've had. So I call myself rollerblade architect. But as I'm starting to grow as an individual and grow as an artist, I feel, and it's also not just because I love razor skates, but I've always been fascinated with razors and razor blades and knives and things that cut, more so than I am fascinated with things that shoot and can cause injury from long distances. I really like up close and personal encounters. So I'm really looking forward to trying these skates. Hopefully I get to try them on later today or tonight, if not tomorrow, and I will post some of that content. I am in dire need of new telephone equipment, yada, 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 you name it. So there you have it. That's the Mesmer Team Skate 2. Retails for $289. I go by Rollerblade Architect, and I have recently changed my handle on Instagram to Razorblade Architect. You can also find me on, I think you can find me on SoundCloud as soundcloud.com/Razorblade Nazi, and you can also find me on TikTok as Razorblade Nazi. If you are looking for more content through the skate shop, there are 2 Instagram pages. One is New York Skate Association, and I think it's spelled ASSN, Association abbreviated. And then there is also New Wave Skate Shop on Instagram. And there's also New Wave Skate Shop on TikTok. But I tend to post most of the content as of now on YouTube because it's just too much to manage for one person. Hopefully in the near future I will have at least one other partner, and in the long run, a team of individuals who are more than willing to help the sport and culture grow, both in a financial sense, but also in a quote unquote spiritual sense, where we're not so focused on the money, but we're focused on the health and wellness of the community. We're focused on the technical aspect, the scientific aspect, and ultimately the jargon is another one that really, really, it fucking grinds my gears. Savannah, Alley-oop Unity, I'm coming for you. Those are on my to-do list, as well as changing the way we are perceived in society. I am fucking livid when I go into a doctor's office with an injury or the ER and I tell them I was rollerblading, or even a security guard that says, no skateboarding here, when there's 30 rollerbladers or aggressive inline roller skaters, and we're still considered skateboarders everywhere we go. So those are my thoughts on the Mesmer Team Skate 2. You can call me Razorblade Nazi, or $8 is the official name. Peace, love, and blessings. That was supposed to hit the camera so that it can go to fade out. Let's try that again. Let's try one more thing without breaking it. This can come down. That should be enough. And if that doesn't work,